Okay, so this is the video on the third of these APIs assignments, and it's called rtweet. So you would need to go into the APIs project and then go to this rtweet over here in Files and come up with this. Rtweet is the name of the package that allows us to access Twitter data via R. And we also have a new package called Plotly, which is a graphing package that I like. And so we'll just be looking at that a little bit. But the real key here is to set up your API. And unlike the other ones that we've used so far with this Twitter API, you're going to have to set up an account. And so you have to get a Twitter account, and you have to set up a developer account and get a bunch of kind of follow these instructions here in this link. Yeah, right in here where it says usage and API authorization. And I would use this 2B. At least that's the one that I've been using, and you can see you have to put the name of your app in, and you have to put all these crazy codes, and you just copy and paste them into R. I think I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I could make a video on that if you have trouble with it, but I think if you follow these instructions, there's another link here that has another kind of a little bit more detailed description of what you need to do, and you have to fill out some stuff. And anyway, I think I won't say anything more about that because I just want to stick with R in this video, but if you have trouble with that, I could make another video on how to do that. The other thing is so basically you need to copy and paste these codes into these parentheses and then run it. But once you do it, and you might want to just try to do like this first command, search tweets, and if it's working, come back here and just delete all that stuff. I think you don't want to save your passwords and stuff to this API into this RStudio cloud. So just go in there and delete it as soon as you know it's working. And so I've actually already done that, and so make sure that you load those packages, which I've done, and then go through this process here. And it's a little bit of a convoluted process, but just give yourself some time, and then you'll get it. So then I'm going to go ahead and run this first command here. One way to get tweets is with this search tweets command. And in this case, and you can see it takes a few, I don't think it takes a few minutes, but it takes maybe one minute or so. And so I've got it going already. I'm collecting 10,000 tweets right now with this topic. At the time that I'm making this video in January 2019, Nancy Pelosi just recently became the new Speaker of the House, and so I figure people are tweeting about her, and we can look for tweets about her. And so there you go. Now it's finished. I also set include RTS to false. And so that way we won't get lots of the same tweet. You know, people retweet something, it's like quoting it or whatever, and so it'll just be the same tweet over and over again. And so I set that to false. So we'll get all different tweets. And actually I just was playing around with this, so I just typed this in, but this I think it will not appear on your notebook. But you need to go ahead and create a new chunk and type in a glimpse about Pelosi. And so about Pelosi is the name of the data frame that we put all these 10,000 tweets into. And so, oops, let's see, yeah. And you can see, I don't know why it seems to do this. It doesn't quite get all 10,000. It seems to get something close to it, and it seems to do that for me every time. I don't know exactly why. But when I do the glimpse on it, yeah, so there you can see the 9,912 different observations, or so tweets in this case, and it gives you all of these different columns, all of this different information. So the screen name, so who was it that made the tweet, and the text, so that's the actual tweet itself. Another one we're going to be using is this created at, which is so this was done, so today's January 26th, and so this was done January 26, 2019 at 23, 45, and 26 seconds, So it'll tell you exactly when. It'll even tell you like where it came from. So what was the app used? So Twitter for Android, Twitter for iPad, etc. It's kind of amazing how much information. It'll even give you your location if you have that set to be visible. Okay, so what I thought we would do to start, just to play around with this a little bit, is to look at the hashtags that people who are tweeting about Pelosi are using. And so one of the columns, in fact, let's go ahead and bring this up. So one of the columns here, so there you can see it. There's when it was created, the name of the person who did it, the text of the tweet, what they tweeted from, etc. And so one of them is called hashtags. And so you can see a lot of people don't use them at all, but like I have no idea what this stuff is, but here's some hashtags that people have used. I don't know what that means either, but what would Nancy Pelosi do? Maybe, I don't know. So a hashtag, right, is this, it's this symbol, the number sign or the pound sign or the tic-tac-toe symbol, and people use it to indicate like topics in Twitter and elsewhere. And so what we're doing here is we're taking our data about Pelosi, selecting just that one column that has the hashtags in it and getting rid of all that, all those other columns. We're not going to use those for now. These two lines here we're going to come back to later in the semester when we do some text analysis, but basically so this unnest command, so if we go back and look, so like here's an example that somebody has multiple, it looks like they have maybe a whole bunch even more than it's showing. Okay, so this person has 4 hashtags, Trump is a moron, and all that other stuff. And so what we need to, and it's fine if we just have one, but some of them have more than one. And so what this unnest command does is it will separate them. It'll take those when somebody has like 4, and it'll separate them, and that way we can use them and count them and compare them and stuff like that. Then the second line here, excuse me, it says to lower, and that's a command that will make everything lowercase. Like, so if we look at, like, this is all lowercase, but but this is, some of them are upper and some of them are lower, right? And so it'll make them all lowercase, so that way if people are using the same one, like let's say this MAGA one is a good example. If somebody tweets, whoops, what did I just do there? If somebody tweets that and uses it all uppercase, well, that's the same as somebody who's tweeting it all lowercase, and so we should kind of just combine them and not try to count them as 2 separate hashtags. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And it's kind of interesting. You can see that the most common hashtag was none. So a lot of people, most, what is that, 90% of people didn't use any hashtag at all. 221 people use Pelosi, which makes sense because that's the topic here. A lot of people use MAGA and Trump and all this kind of stuff. At the time that I'm making this video, the shutdown was the big thing that was in the news, and so that's a common topic, and we can just kind of look through these and see the different hashtags at Bernie 2020 and Trump 2020. People impeached Trump and all this kind of stuff that people are yelling at each other about on Twitter. So that's one thing we can look at. Here's another thing we can look at. We can look at the retweet count. So that was one of the, right here, it was one of the columns. And we can kind of use that as an index of how popular the tweet was. If a lot of people retweeted it. Now remember, we're not including retweets here, but it'll still tell us how many times that particular tweet was retweeted by others. We also could have used favorite, which actually might have been a better way to measure how popular it is, but anyway, either one, we could have used those. I use retweet count here, and I'm just selecting the text of the tweet and then how many times it was retweeted, and we're getting the top 25, and then we're going to sort them in descending order and then make a table of them. And so that's so you can see. I don't have any idea what this is about, but anyway, you can see that was the most popular tweet about Pelosi. Um, and here's another one about the wall funding and shutdown and stuff. So anyway, you get the idea. You can see which ones were the most popular tweets about Pelosi. Really on this day. And yours will be different because you'll do it at a different time, and it's getting you can imagine there's people are tweeting millions of tweets all the time about this stuff, and so it's always changing. Okay. Now, we used before, go back up here, we used this search tweets function to get tweets about a particular topic, Pelosi in that case. Another way to get tweets is, come back down here, with this get timeline function, and that will, we specify a person, or we can actually do multiple people that we want to get the timeline. So timelines meaning, I guess that's another word for just what they've tweeted. So basically it's getting the tweets that this person has made. So we can just go to Twitter, look up the person, figure out what their Twitter handle is and put that in quotes here, and then put, in this case, we'll did 10,000 again. Actually, I think, oh, okay, I'll leave it. I'm worried that you only are allowed to do a certain number of searches in a certain period of time. And so if you might run into what's called a rate limit, and I'm afraid I might do that here since I just did that one with 10,000 before. But let's see what happens. So while that's working, let's look down here. So one of the things that I want to do, okay, oh yeah, you can see, I was afraid this was going to happen. Notice it says, so for Pelosi tweets here, it only got 3,000, and yet there's 10,000 is what I requested. And I think it limited me because I was playing around with this before I made this video, and so I think that's all right. I think the analyses we'll do will still work, but you might run into that where it gets mad at you if you hit this, and keep on doing it over and over again. But I think we can use that. So let's go ahead and if we go to the next section, what I want to do is look at when these tweets happened, and we can use this created at column, which is basically, so if we go back here, it's this created, yeah, there it is, created at. You can see it's a date and a time. In fact, let's go to this Pelosi tweets. Let's go to the correct data set here. And so you can see today's January 26th, and you can see, there were some tweets. What is it, about 7 tweets? And then yesterday is the January 25th, and there were another, 4 or whatever that is. And it's actually kind of interesting. If you look here, these 3 tweets from her came at the exact same time, even to the second. So 2:42 and 30 seconds, which is kind of funny that I don't know how you can tweet 3 times in 1 second, but anyway, that's I don't know what that means. But and then if you look at these were only 1 second later, so it's like all 5 kind of right at the same time, like somebody created them and then just clicked, the button, and they all kind of came out at the same time. So anyway, it tells you when they happened. And so if we come back here, if we want to see how many occurred on each day, we can use this date command from that lubridate package. So one of the packages that we loaded was this lubridate, which is organizes dates and times in R. And so this date command here, function, is out of that lubridate package, and what it'll do is it'll extract that date. So if we look here, it says January 26, 2019, and as a time. Let's say we just want to get the date out and leave the time off. That's basically what this does. And so I'm going to create a new column called day. and I'm going to group by that, group by day. So group all the tweets that happen on a single day, and then count them with this summarize command. And so we can see, so like this goes back to, wow, it goes back to April 2017, you can see, and there are only 2 on that day, and yeah, it looks like, if we kind of scroll, like, I bet if we go to the last page, yeah, that'll be today. So it looks like, maybe 5 or 10 a day, something like that. And we can calculate that exactly by using another summarize command. So it says here, what summarize is doing is it's collapsing it by day. Since I'm grouping by day and then summarizing, it's going to collapse, the 2 tweets that happen on that day and put them together. Now, if we use the summarize command again, and so it tells us to take this tweet here and copy it, paste it down here, and then I'm going to summarize, copy that one, make sure we've got the pipe in there, and let's see, I guess we do that. And when we do that summarize again, what it'll do is it'll collapse it again, and this time into a single number. And so this 5.62 is the average of all of these days. So it's the average number of time. That makes sense. 5, if you look at them, it looks like it's about 5 or so, right? You have 2s and 4s and 9s and stuff. So on average, she tweets 5.6 times a day, or I would assume it's somebody on her staff if it's not her that's doing it. Okay, so then it says we can also graph the number. We can graph the number of tweets per day. So what I'm going to do here is create this this histogram, and so we basically take that first part where we change this date into this day column, and then we're going to set x equal to day, and then create a histogram with ggplot. And so you can see there, over time how often she's tweeting. It actually looks like she kind of declined. She was kind of peaked here, what was that, late 2017? And then kind of declined a little bit over time. Now it gives you this warning message. It says using bins equal 30 and pick a better value with bin width. And so I'd like us to do that. So it says here, the histogram combines days into bins. So for example, it looks like, so if it's bins equal 30, it's dividing it up into 30 individual bins, and it's hard to even tell how many days this is. It looks like it might be about a month or so. I don't know. So if this is if this is a year, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But we can specify that, and it says copy and paste the above. So it says create another histogram below, but put bin width equals into this geom histogram. So what I'm going to do is just copy all this stuff, paste it there, and then I'm going to say bin width equals, and then let's do 7. So what that'll do is the bin width. So right now the bins are 1 day, and so this will make it a week. And so if we run that histogram again, so there you can see. So it was probably up here, it was probably a couple weeks or a month or something. But now you can see how many tweets per week. And so you can see her best week, if you want to call it that, was over 100. But you can see a lot of them, like there was one that looks like it was only a handful of tweets in one day, right? Or sorry, 1 week. And remember, it was 5 a day. And so, yeah, that would be 35 per week. And that looks about right. So that's about the average right around there. Now, I wanted to show you this package called Plotly, which is like ggplot2, but there's a few differences in how it works, and but the really cool thing about Plotly is that it creates interactive graphs. And so let's just go ahead and run this. So you can see these first two lines are the same as above. I've got the tweets, and then I'm creating the day column, just like here. But now instead of ggplot, and then geom histogram with Plotly, it's a little different, right? So one thing is Plotly doesn't use those dumb plus signs. It uses the same pipe that that we've been using in R, and we don't have to switch back and forth. So that's kind of nice. One weird thing about Plotly is it wants you to put the little squiggle there in front of your variables. So we say x equals, and then we put it's like the tilde. It's like the top left key there in front of the variables, and then add histogram as opposed to geom histogram. So let's go ahead and run that. And so basically that's kind of like the Plotly version of the histogram above. Now, one of the cool things you can see is if you hold your mouse over it, it'll show you. So that was this period of time. It's choosing a 2-week period, and there were 178 tweets during that period. And then we can kind of, scroll across here or hover and see different things. And we can like zoom in. So it's an interactive graph, and it works really well on a web page. People can interact with it like you'd expect on a web page, and you can pan around, like if you want to look at one specific spot or whatever one day. And by the way, if you kind of get screwed up, you can hit the home here, and it'll reset it. So it's kind of just a really cool interactive graphing package, and that you can't do that with ggplot. It's just a picture. Okay. Oh yeah, and I wanted to show you, to kind of tidy it up a little bit, you can use this layout. Oh, and I've already got it here. I said copy paste the above code and then put this line, but I guess I already did it. So so you don't have to do that. But if you do layout and then title equals, and then put the title of the graph. So let's run that. There we go. So number of tweets from Speaker Pelosi. All right. Now we can do the same thing as above, where we looked at it with days, but this time I want to see what time of day she's tweeting. And so we use this hour function from lubridate in order to extract. So if we go back here again, there's, like this one was at 2:42. So we want to extract just that 2. Just by the hour. And this one was at 1. This one was at, I guess that's 12:30 a.m. 20, so that would be, what is that, 8:30, right? And so we just want to know at what hour of the day it was, and we don't care about the month or the year or anything like that. We're just going to look at what hour it was created across all of those times. So just look at sort of what was her most popular time to tweet. And so we create a new column called time with this mutate. Remember, creates a new column. So the new column is going to be called time, and it's going to be based on the hour that the tweet was created. We're going to count them all up, and then we're going to create a table. And let's go ahead and run this. I added a couple of options to this data table. I set row names to false because it's a little confusing. The first row will be time 0. It's like off by 1. And then 1 a.m. would be row 2. So if you turn those off, that's a little more easier to read. And then I set the page length to 24, which will, 24 hours in the day. It will not appear in RStudio, but when you put it on a web page, it will show all 24 of them. Now, one thing I wanted you to notice is, look how weird it is that, so this 0 is midnight, and look how many tweets at midnight and 1 a.m. And actually, it turns out that that is an error. And the reason it's an error is that we have to think about the time zone. And there's this TZ function in Lubridate that allows us to, it'll just tell us what time zone. So I have Pelosi tweets and then the $ created at. So I want to see what is the time zone of that created at column. And if we do that, you can see it says UTC. Now UTC is, so it's Universal Coordinated Time, which I believe is London time. It's like Greenwich Mean Time, I think. And, you know, she was not in London when she was doing this, presumably, or like she could have been on vacation or something at one point, but presumably she's in Washington, D.C., which is the Eastern time zone in the U.S., and not London time. So probably this is wrong. And so what we can do is we can convert that time zone to Eastern time zone. And actually just realized that I think I've got a typo here. I think it needs to be a capital Y. Let's try that. But what basically this down here is the same as this up here, where we got the hours, but it has this extra line in where we use this with TZ, and what that does is it creates it changes the time zone of the date or of the time. And so let's run that because I think that's not going to work. I think that's a typo. Yeah, if you look, it's the same 107. Yep, it says unrecognized time zone, America, New York. So I'll try to go back and change that. But if it's like that on yours, just make sure you change that to a capital Y. Let's try that again. Okay, so there it worked. So now you can see this makes a lot more sense. Once you change the time zone, notice that there's nothing even at 1 a.m. because there were no tweets at all. And there's nothing at 3, 4, or 5 either, right? It just skips it. So you had some tweets at midnight, some at 2, but rarely. In fact, I wouldn't surprise me if she was on vacation during those times and the time zone was different. But if you look at where most of the tweets occurred, it's, you know, they start at 8, 9, 10 in the morning, right? And so that makes much more sense. So we can go ahead and create a Plotly histogram, but this time instead of the date, we're going to create a histogram of the hour. So what are the most popular, you know, hours that she's tweeting? And again, I've got this New York spelled wrong here. So make sure that Y is capitalized when you do that. I apologize for that. But then we'll change the time zone, get the hour, and then basically plot it. So let's run that. And so you can see here, you know, this makes sense from 0 till like 6 or 7 or 8. They're really, you know, so from midnight, in the middle of the night, there really aren't any tweets. And instead, once it gets to be, you know, what is that, about 9, 10 a.m. and peaking at, what is that, 14, so that's, you know, 2 p.m., you get the most tweets, and then it tails off again in the evening. All right. And then I say, so to complete the graph above, add the following line. We're going to put the title and some other stuff in there. So let's go ahead and copy this, paste that, and just add this line. And what you just need to make sure you put the pipe in there, and then paste. The indent's a little off, but that won't matter. And so you use this layout command, put the title, put a nicer x-axis, you know, it says time in lowercase, but we can make that a little more clear, say time of day 0 equals midnight, and then make the y-axis say the number of tweets. And so let's run that. There we go. So it's just the same graph, but just a little bit nicer labels. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing that we just did, But this time, instead of using hour, I want to use this wday, which stands for weekday function. It's in this Lubridate package. So what I want to do, again, if we go back here, um, we don't know unless we looked on a calendar, what days some of these were. I mean, if we go back to, November 30th, 2018, who knows what day of the week that was. Was that a Monday or Tuesday or whatever? We could figure that out by going back and looking at a calendar. But Lubridate will tell us what it is by using this wday or weekday command. And so wday created at, and then we're going to basically do what we did before and see what the most popular days of the week are for her to tweet, and we'll count them and then make a table of them. And so there we go. And you can, in fact, we could click on N here and see. So it looks like Thursday, for whatever reason, was the most popular day. And you can see Saturday and Sunday are the least popular, and that makes total sense, that the weekdays are more popular. And yeah. So by the way, this label equals true. What that does is it gives us these labels here. So if let's say I remove that and run it again. So let's delete it and run it. And so notice if we don't have those labels, we just have numbers. And what is 1? Is that Sunday, or it could be Monday, or who knows what it is. And so if we put labels, I'll just undo that and say label equals true, and then we run it, then it'll give us the actual names of the days of the week instead of numbers. Okay, so now it says using the code above as a starting point, create a histogram with Plotly. So so we can just take these first couple of lines and I'm going to create a new code chunk. So we're going to create, using this Pelosi tweet data, create a new column called day, and then we're going to do this plotly, which is plot_ly, and then we're going to do x equals, now remember we need that little squiggle, so x equals, and then day with a capital D, and then I think it's just add_histogram. Okay, let's see if I got that right. Okay, yeah, so there you can see, and it shows you, when are the most popular days, when do you get the most tweets, and there's that Thursday that was the highest, and then Sunday was the lowest. Okay, and we could fancy that up with the title and everything, but I think I'll skip that for now. I want to finish up this this unit with, or this notebook with a really cool graph I think you can make with Plotly, and it's called a heat map. And another name for it is a two-dimensional histogram. So it's instead of add histogram, it uses add histogram 2D. And what we can do is we can take those two variables, so hour of the day and day of the week, and combine them into a single histogram and see when the most common times of the day are for her to tweet, and combine with the most common days, so times and days. And I can just see, once again, I've got the lowercase y, so I'm going to fix that right now. So make sure that that's uppercase. And you shouldn't have to really do anything here except for fix that y and then run it. Okay, so this is called a heat map. And I just think it's a really nice way to look at this. Let me see if I can show a little more of this. So in this case, it shows the legend here. The darker colors, like a dark purple, were basically 0. And then as it gets more, so higher number of tweets, you get a brighter and a more of a yellow color. So you can see there, really nothing much between midnight and, what is that, about 8 or 9, 7, 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning. And you get the kind of the most tweets for whatever reason. There's that Thursday at, what is that, 11 a.m. and then Wednesday at, what is that, 3 p.m. is really popular, but you can see right in the middle of the work week, kind of the middle of the afternoon, or definitely the most common times for her to tweet. And so let's go ahead. I'm going to take this and add some access labels to it. So let me just go back up here and check, make sure I remember how to do this. So, oops, we use this layout and then title. In fact, I think I'm just going to cheat and copy this here and then paste it down here. Make sure you put the pipe in there. And so yeah, we can keep the title the same. When does Speaker Pelosi tweet? And then the x-axis is day. It's not time of day, so we have to change this a little bit. We have to say, let's call it a day of the week. And then the y-axis now is the time of day. So I'm going to say time of day, and then I'll do that 0 equals midnight. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, that's a little better. All right, so then basically for your assignment, you're going to kind of run through pretty much what I did here, but you're going to you do this with Trump and instead of Pelosi. So we'll have both of them on record, and then so I will make another video where I do that. Okay, bye.